Sto provando a imparare italiano.
Parli bene, parli bene.
Grazie.
Roberto,
Ciao.
thank you so much for joining Transatlantic. We're really happy, and I'm personally grateful to have you here for all the advertising community back home in Italy. I know how much they look up to you. I know how much they look at you as an inspiration. So let's get to it, and welcome to Transatlantic.
All right, great to be here, and ciao Italia.
Listen, at Transatlantic, we believe that each of us is an ocean that has to be crossed. To really get to know someone, you had to cross this ocean. And so I'm here today to travel your waters. And I know that they are very uncommon and troubled water. So I'm going to ask you 7 questions. And each of these questions aim at discover something about yourself, and something can be inspiring for people in advertising, and mostly back home in Italy. So the first question is this. During the transatlantic journeys, people were to carry those vintage suitcase or wooden trunk. And those trunks were filled with everything, any kind of object, memorabilia, personal items, things that remind you that an adventure is about to start. Now I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Your very first day in advertising, when you were a young copywriter, was there an item that you carry with you in your backpack or your suitcase?
Wow.
This is transatlantic, man.
Wow. Maybe I have 2 ways to answer this. My very first day, way back when in the late 80s, I was desperate to be a writer. So in terms of an object, a true object, I had a little book called Elements of Style.
Interesting.
And this was written by 2 writers, Strunk and White. And you may know the White, the Bianco, because it's E.B. White. And he was a writer for the New Yorker and an illustrator. It's a very small, slim little book, but it was about grammar and the best ways to write and to express yourself. But it was grammar, but written with a lovely style. So I think step 1 was, if I was going to be a writer, I really wanted to be a great writer with clarity and style, and that's what that book represented. That's part 1. But part 2, and as Simone, you said up front, you have a suitcase in the beginning of your journey and all kinds of stuff. What's interesting in your journey is that you start to give away all those things, and that big suitcase you started with becomes quite empty because everything is in your head and in your heart. And I think the other thing I would have from day 1 that I always keep today is some kind of music, some kind of song, some kind of lyric. Not that I wrote, because I am not a musician, but something musical I try to keep in my mind as well. So those 2 things.
Funny, because I always liked about you, there are 2 elements that I love about you, and it's writing and music. And I know, because you've been my boss, that music play a very important role in your life, in your career, and so writing, and so the New Yorker. In fact, every time I think about you, there is this New York accent, which I love so much. I can't make it because mine is more like a Brooklyn accent. But anyway, that goes onto the second question, which I'm gonna throw a quote at you. Advertising people love quotes, so here's the quotes. If you really want to cross the ocean, you have to have the bravery to lose sight of the shore. This is true for everybody that wants to embark into a journey that's going to be terrifying. Right now, think about a young kid starting advertising in 2020. Can be intimidating, truly terrifying. But he had to have the bravery to lose sight of the shore. was a word of wisdom, a tip, a suggestion that you would like to say to that kid?
That's a good one. I don't know if they were the Greeks or the Spartans, but I like that whole idea that they would bring the ship to the next island, and the first thing they would do is burn the ships because you'd have to make it work, you know. So losing the shore. I like these beautiful metaphors. I think the best thing I can say is I had a lot of fear leaving the shore, a lot of insecurity. And I think that's okay, because at a certain point on the journey, sooner than you think, that fear is going to turn into ambition and into calluses. You'll get much stronger. But I think maybe the best thing to understand is that the shore may represent fear, and the further away you come from it is the more emboldened you will become.
I like the transition between fear and ambition. I think it's like something that truly happened. It happened to me. And I think like it's a great motivator. It's a great engine. The next question is this. It's about your career. And I have to say, I must admit, not because you are here, not because I've known you for like 10 years, but definitely like one of the best careers I've ever seen out so far. Talking about crossing the Atlantic Ocean, you did cross an ocean. You truly like changed waters. So you went from being like a brilliant copywriter to become one of the most successful like CEO of our modern time. It's like, if I were given an analogy, it's like, you know, traveling the Mediterranean Sea and then suddenly steer to like the Indian Ocean. It's like so different. Why did you do that? What made you do that? That is a plan crazy, my man.
Well, where to begin on this? I think it's not dissimilar to your analogy of, sailing in the Atlantic and then suddenly, whether it's a headwind or an opportunity, spins you into an Indian Ocean. I think that is the right metaphor in my instance. Something happens in your career that you need to understand is that there will be the skills and the things you know how to do well will only get you to a certain point. And then life and circumstance and opportunity is going to ask you a question, and you're going to have to make a choice. And I kind of hit the shoals at the TBWA. I was a chief creative officer of the LA office. I was then asked to move into a global role, and I had to essentially kind of make that up. And at a certain point, I hit the shoals. And when our new CEO came in, the global CEO, Troy Ruhan, and he asked me, he said, what do you want to do next? And I didn't have the imagination to say, oh, why don't I make a transition into leadership management? My brain was small. I was like, well, I'll just, be a creative director back over there. And he said, no. Why don't you think about making this leap to management? And I think staying open to that and trying to think about that will help in your career. You are, no matter where you are, who you are, at some level, you're going to hit a part of the ocean where you can't sail any further, and you're going to have to figure out where to go next. So
this is very inspiring for young creatives, for me as well, because it gives you the idea of like how much you can travel and how profoundly you can steer towards a different career. And I think it's funny because every time I go on LinkedIn and I see either your updates and I see your title near your name, I'm always reminded of this is crazy. It's like I've known you as chief creative officer at Chai Los Angeles, and then it reminds you that there is an infinity possibility out there, and there is like so many lands that you can explore. So don't limit yourself to thinking like you're just a copywriter or you're just an art director. Just explore, and this is a great reminder. Now, talking about Child Day, and I don't know if you know, but there is an interesting fact. Captain of those ships that they make the quickest westbound transatlantic crossing are given an award. It's a Blue Ribbon Award, unofficial, but it's very prestigious. Now, you sit at the helm of one of the most awarded network and agency in New York City, and looking at TBW in New York in the past few years, I've won everything. So you did win a lot of awards in your career. I remember back in the day, you also had a blog spot called Metal Potential. I don't know if you have it anymore, but it was very inspiring. I used to read it a lot. What's next for you? And when I say next, what I mean is what gets you up in the morning, and what is the next achievement that you would like to grab, go there and say, this is mine?
Yeah. Well, that's a very profound question, because awards are important. And I know that there's, there's a school of thought that they're less important and they're minimized and what have you, but don't believe that. They're still important. And,
thank you.
It's, I love them and I hate them. like most people, but they are important. I think what changes though, for me is, I should back up. I grew up in a culture under Lee Clow, which was make famous, great ideas, and then let them get awards. I didn't grow up in a let's take this thing and make it award winning and do the things that we have to do to make it a right case study video. It was much more naive. I think that was almost a Californian artifact. The fact that we weren't so caught up in the awards machinations. Now, if we made something famous and it was great and it didn't win, Lee was very disappointed. But so just understand that within the context. I think that for me now, I want to build what I was attracted to originally about TBWA and Child Day, and that this was a destination company, that this was a creative force. Like Disney is a creative force, like IDEO is a creative force, like Virgin at its best is a creative force. And these are destination companies. And that's what I, am dreaming about and trying to make happen every single day, that people could come into the agency, do the best work of their career, and grow as people, grow as leaders. And nothing is more satisfying than when you grow someone in the agency and they hive off and start running other enterprises.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Hey, I have a question, and the next one is about self-discovery. Now, I don't know if you're aware or not, but there is an interesting fact. Benjamin Franklin crossed the ocean, the Atlantic, many times. The very first time, it was when he was 18 years old, and the last time when he was 79, right? So very early during the journey, he made a self-discovery about himself. He was not sick. He could never guess sick. That's great, right? Because everybody at one point had to get sick. He couldn't. No matter the water, no matter the danger, he couldn't get sick. Now, you did cross many oceans, right? You've been in the industry for so many years, and what is the single best self-discovery you have made about yourself? I mean, what is it that you found about yourself that is interesting?
Jesus, you're making me work,
Well, it's 10 o'clock in New York. It's 7 o'clock here in Los Angeles.
Amico, come on, it's Friday.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
First of all, I love Ben Franklin. I think he's a very interesting person to read about, just because he was multifaceted. He wasn't just a printer. He wasn't just a writer. He wasn't just a politician. He wore many, many hats. I think in the context of your question, the single biggest discovery for me was that I had a lot of curiosity. I don't think I would ever use that word about myself 20 years ago. Oh, right. I'm curious about things. But I realized that I was. And, this, I like to ask why, I like to understand, why are you doing this podcast? Why are you using these ocean metaphors? Why do we like podcasts? The more you ask why, I think, that's something for me that, I don't know, it got me to get me interested in things, and then got me to solutions.
Yeah, and I think that curiosity is such like an essential part of our job. And it's like, even like, sometimes curiosity, like in my case, for instance, like it manifests in binging. Like, I binge on like YouTube and like videos and books and music. We have this kind of like obsessive compulsive like, behavior towards like content, any type of content. So definitely, and also personally, I do remember that, you do like asking a lot of questions. Whenever I present work to you, you are asking a lot of questions. Next question is this, and it's more about the industry. Now, by 1920, when airplane start taking over transatlantic ocean with like, with typical like boats and like, start like kind of like be forgotten. So there was an element of like something new is coming and it's taking over, and it's like outdating completely. Now, every day there is a change in advertising in our industry. But my question for you is this: do you foresee anything in the near future, or like, in 10 years time, like, where you think like, okay, something's gonna come, it's gonna completely take over and make like, the state of advertising as it is now outdated?
It's interesting. I'm always looking at the other side of that question, which is what's going to remain.
I like that. What's going to remain? The wooden trunks with the suitcase and all the portfolio, probably.
I'm such a mediocre prognosticator. Ugh, the worst.
All are.
I feel like, and you too, we've witnessed cataclysmic change and adoption of technologies, and so much has changed since, at least when I started, when you started, it sounds like a cliche, but all we had was print, TV, radio, right? But think about all the things that have changed. I think there'll be continued changes. There's no question. What I am seeing as an interesting constant, but with a change, is the collision of ideas that are universally true, but that now must be expressed and influenced by diversity and inclusion.
Okay.
So think about this as, what will remain as universal truths, but suddenly they will materialize in ways that are not what we expect. And the best example of this, I think, has happened. I feel like I've seen the future, and it looks like 1961. It was the first creative revolution, because in the first creative revolution, you finally had diverse populations influencing the creative. Madison Avenue was a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant province, as white can be. But suddenly in that moment, Italian art directors showed up, and Jewish copywriters, and Greek art directors, and you had this explosion of ethnic creatives in the process. So universal ideas, universal truths were then influenced by ethnicity, and it was a revolution. It was so powerful. You know, you don't need to be Jewish to love Levy's rye bread. If you look at the Levy's commercial, if you look at Alka-Seltzer, Species Spicy Meatball, this was, you know, agita. This was Italian culture suddenly influencing the world. The creative revolution number 2 that we are about to experience is going to be taking universal truths, but the explosion of people from Asian countries we've never imagined before. The real rise of listening to African-American Black voices in traditional advertising and not as separate minority agencies. This is really going to influence the work. So I think you know, I'm sorry to be so long-winded here, but I think the real moment of change is going to be taking universal human truths, but now understanding and expressing them with new, diverse, and inclusive voices.
That's a great answer, man. That's a great answer. Look, I'm gonna let you off the hook, but I have a last question. You can answer like any kind of wants. If you were to name a wind that blow your sail, what would that be?
The wind that blows my sail.
If you were to name it, one word.
Well, first of all, it's going to be a tailwind.
Okay.
not a headwind. Too many headwinds. I want a tailwind. You know, I think I want a tailwind named Betsy, because that's my wife. I've been married 25 plus years, and you know, I think that she's, more than anything throughout my career, been the wind who has said either you can do this, or think about this way, or you know, she's just been there. So
it's awesome, man. That's really great. Look, thank you so much. I mean, really thank you. I know like how busy you are, and like, you know, I'm sure that everybody back home is gonna be grateful for this interview. What can I say? It was a pleasure, man. It was really a pleasure to cross the ocean.
Well, listen, you're a prince, a true pirate in our parlance, and you know, we need to practice Italian. You know, I really tried hard to learn the Italian language. I've been very rusty, but allora, molto bene, grazie.
Okay.
Bene, ciao tutti.